Oh my God, so this is hilarious. Uproxx is coming out and saying what people who didn't like The Last Jedi have been thinking and saying for years. They don't know what the hell is going on in the new Star Wars trilogy. They don't know what the First Order is. They don't know what the Resistance is. They don't know what anybody wants. What the hell is going on? Why did it take them this long to ask this question?
These questions.
These questions. Well, what the hell is going on is a singular
one question. But I mean, you mentioned several questions before you got to the what the hell is going on.
So we've got one more movie, The Rise of Skywalker, to answer a ton of questions that have been raised by the other two movies. And just now, the far left media is scratching their heads and asking why these questions weren't answered before.
Yeah, I mean, they're not wrong about these questions though, because even from the first movie, they just, it's the Resistance, it's the First Order, but where'd they come from? They never explain.
It's never explained. Okay, so that's actually been a big sticking point for me, because I expected The Last Jedi to
That's what I thought they were going to do. Where'd they come from? Okay, we're going to tell you. It's just like, oh, look, it's the new Empire and the new Republic, okay?
Right.
Well, you're not explaining that. You just changed the names, and you did for no reason.
God. Okay, so we're going to get into this article on Uproxx. We're going to talk about some commentary here on Bleeding Fool, which actually answers the questions, and the answers are kind of disappointing, but probably true. Mm-hmm. Here on Clownfish TV, we're going to take a look at that. Now, before we get into the video, please subscribe if you haven't done so already. Helps the channel out big time. We just passed 40,000 subs this week. We really appreciate it. We're on our way to 100,000. We're going to do it.
Yes.
We're going to do it. We're going to do it. And then
we're going to win in the end.
We're going to win in the end. Okay, so this is coming from Uproxx. For the life of us, we can't figure out what the First Order wants in these new Star Wars movies.
Yes, what do they want?
You know, Star Wars fans have been saying this for years, and they were called haters, misogynists, man babies. Just saying.
Yeah,
Just saying,
and you're
Uproxx.
a female fan saying it, they just ignored you completely. But go ahead.
So this is, who's this guy? Mike Ryan. Mike Ryan says, a week ago I wrote a piece lamenting that now, after 2 chapters in this Star Wars sequel trilogy, I still didn't 100% know what the First Order and Resistance actually are. And again, I understand what they are in a macro sense, but the minutia of both organizations are a bit blurry. Honestly, I expected it to be inundated in social media with endless barrage. Obviously, it's this, but surprisingly, most responses were more like, yeah, we don't really get it either.
Yes, which what everybody's been saying.
So he goes on about this. I'm actually going to pull up an article from Bleeding Fool, which I thought was very funny. This is coming from Ichibaka, and he actually answers Mike's questions very, very candidly, and I think the answers are correct. So here we go. Mike's article, he writes, he wrote a piece lamenting he didn't know what they were.
But we just read, yeah.
Yeah. So Ichibaka answers, 4 years later, SJWs start asking the questions that normal people asked instantly and were called racist, sexist, and misogynist for asking them.
Yes.
Hilarious. So he's thought more about it. This is Mike from Uproxx. So of the two, the Resistance is a little easier to understand. The best explanation for its existence is something along the lines of, they're there to fight the First Order. So this is both a simple explanation, but it gets more complicated when we consider it exists only because of the First Order, and that's a problem because the First Order doesn't make a lot of sense. At least after 2 chapters, I have no idea what they want.
Right, and it's, and I thought they the rebellion won at the end of Return of the Jedi, so what happened that now we have to do this all over again for no reason, like 30 years later or whatever it is?
There is a reason, and Ichibaka hits the nail here. They want you to buy as much First Order merch as we bought Empire merch. That's it. Nothing else.
Probably. That's exactly what I'm thinking. I mean, that's what I've been thinking the whole time. It's there because it's the new Empire. It's there because Resistance is there because it's the new rebellion. That's all the explanation we're going to give you. That
is it. It's there because, and even with The Force Awakens, that was one of my biggest criticisms of it. Now, even though I like The Force Awakens more than you did overall, I did want an explanation as to why 30 years later nothing has changed.
Yeah.
Except for the names of
Who's Snoke?
Yeah.
What the heck's up with Rey?
Right. And we never got those answers, but when it boils down to it, Disney bought the Star Wars franchise and they wanted stormtroopers and they wanted TIE fighters versus X-Wings and they basically wanted to go back to the original trilogy
but own it now.
But own it now.
So they can make the money off of it.
Right. So they wanted their stormtroopers, their versions of TIE fighters, their version of the Empire. Going in the direction George Lucas probably would have gone in, which is a post-Empire Star Wars, it probably would have been a totally different thing, just like the prequel trilogy.
But we probably would have got Han, Leia, and Luke in a much broader sense, you know?
But they wouldn't have had TIE Fighter and X-Wing toys to sell.
No.
Yeah, because look at the prequels.
They wanted a new Luke Skywalker, so they brought in Rey.
Right. Needed a new Darth Vader. Here comes Kylo Ren.
Right.
So really all they were doing is just copying...
It's the exact same thing.
Copying the original trilogy to sell merchandise. He is absolutely correct. Here, the prequel trilogy isn't executed well, but the overall... I don't know, it's pretty hot. It's pretty hot. But its overall story is pretty interesting. Palpatine knows he can't just fight the entire Republic and win, so instead he infiltrates the Republic as a senator, then becomes chancellor and guts the whole thing from the inside out.
You clearly know what's going on.
Right. There's, the acting may not be the greatest. The effects maybe are dated now, but the prequel trilogy, the overall story was actually pretty clever.
It was pretty solid, too. I mean, you knew what was happening.
Instead of fighting the government, Palpatine became the government. Palpatine's goal was pretty clear. That's
divide and conquer.
Right. That's the macro story of the prequel trilogy. It tells a tale of a democracy that fell into tyranny. Now contrast this with the First Order. What exactly do they want?
No idea.
If you go back and watch Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, the First Order doesn't ever reveal its ultimate goal. No, they just want to build another Death Star.
No, it's bigger.
For reasons.
It's not a Death Star. It's bigger. It's a Star Killer.
Like, why did they...
Death Star.
How did they exist? How did the First Order build this massive empire and this Star Killer base on the watch of the New Republic when you think they would have been looking for, we can't let the Empire come back.
Right. Yeah. And then
it makes no sense.
Where the heck did he come from? Because the Emperor was the Emperor. So, okay, his title is the Emperor. So obviously he's the Emperor. This person's, Snow.
Supreme leader.
Yeah, Supreme Leader Snow. I mean, okay.
Yeah, it's like Cobra Commander versus Serpentor. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do they want to run the galaxy? We don't know. We have to assume they do. It's never really made clear. How big are they? I don't know. I'm like...
No idea.
Are they a threat like the Empire where they are all over the galaxy? Because they basically are the government. Or are they like a fringe group that's trying to bring back the Empire? We don't know.
How if we know?
It's never explained. And again, he says, at least with the Empire, we knew it was enormous because it literally was the government.
Right, you're at the far reaches and the Empire's in control,
Yeah, the First Order isn't trying to wrestle control of the Republic from inside like Palpatine did. They're attacking from the outside. Yeah, the prequel trilogy was clever because it introduced the Stormtroopers as the government's army.
Right.
It would be like the U.S. military just all of a sudden flipping the switch and now they're the bad guys, and what happened? And that was, if you were watching Star Wars 1 through 6 in order and you didn't know what was going to happen, that would be pretty shocking. Like, wait, the clone troopers are bad now?
Yeah.
And Anakin's bad now? Oh my God. You know?
It's like a story of what happens when people have too much power and how governments and things can be corrupted very easily is what it's telling you. And how to fight back. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, so these are all legitimate questions according to Ichibaka, and those in the fandom menace were villainized for asking nearly 4 years ago.
Since the first time I walked out of that theater from the Force Awakens, my exact words was, what the hell was that? I already saw this movie, and I don't understand what the heck's going on.
Yeah, to be fair, many of these garbage tier writers are too young, probably 19 to 22. In that case, then they saw The Force Awakens when they were 15 to 18. So now they're looking at the sequel trilogy through a semi-adult lens for the first time. This will make the box office for Episode 9 terribly interesting.
I agree.
Will new fans even return if they're now asking these questions? Time will tell. Now, some SJWs will bark something about being a kids franchise.
Yeah, that's for kids.
About space wizards with laser swords. But how interesting it is that even the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy held the interest of its original child audience as they grew into adults and facilitated deeper discussions about the rise and fall of civilizations, etc., etc. There are no deeper layers in the sequel trilogy, and that's what the writers of this article are struggling with. That's what the writers are struggling with.
And these people that grew up, they're writing articles about what's the horniest Star Wars franchise.
there literally is no point to the sequel trilogy. I mean, that's what's so...
Because there is the theme parks.
Theme parks. That...
money!
The theme of the sequel
for more money.
Trilogy is exactly that. It's the search for more money, and that's heartbreaking because, you know, we had such high hopes initially when Disney bought Star Wars, and then we saw those hopes, you know, flushed down the drain, you know, obviously with The Last Jedi. And I think why The Last Jedi was so heartbreaking was... You can give them a pass on The Force Awakens because they still have 2 more movies.
Yeah, they're setting it up.
They're setting it up. You still have 2 more movies to explain this stuff, you know? And I kept thinking, well, maybe since this is told from Rey's perspective, she wouldn't have all the information, but Luke is going to come along and explain everything, you know, and we'll understand exactly what happened. No.
Well, I think trilogies are kind of like set up like a, you know, a story or, you know, a story arc. You have the first part of your story, your 3-part arc. First part's the setup. The second part, you start getting the bigger, broader picture about everything, and you understand what the stakes are. The third part usually is some big climactic something, and then, you know, the resolution for the story. And you didn't get the answers in the middle that you're supposed to, or the setup in the middle you're supposed to answer the question.
The rising action. There was no actually that's what was awful about The Last Jedi. And when you watch the whole trilogy in the future, assuming people are going to watch it again in the future, but you're going to see that like the action rises at the end of The Force Awakens and it just flatlines. Because literally nothing happens in The Last Jedi. It is filler.
You can just take it all out. It doesn't change the story.
Yeah, it's filler. You literally, if what is going to happen in Episode 9 is they're gonna like answer all these questions from the first movie and all that, like you could take The Last Jedi out and just say, okay, well, Rey found Luke died and he's a ghost now, and go. You know, now we're going to explain who Snoke was.
Well,
we're going to explain where Palpatine came from.
We already know that Rey found Luke at the end of the first one.
Yeah.
So all you did in the next one was, you know, have this adventure that solved nothing and put you right back where you were, and Luke's dead now. That is literally it. Everybody's in the exact same place they were before.
And you could actually explain that with just a time jump.
Yeah.
You could actually have you could actually cut The Last Jedi out completely, because it was weird that it took place like right after, because Star Wars has never done that where it takes place like literally right after the last episode. There's always a year or 2 years or 3 years between movies, you know, in the chronology
or
of the movies.
Or a few months. So
yeah, a few months. But you could explain everything that happened in The Last Jedi in a couple sentences in the scroll for Episode 9, and nothing is lost.
Yeah, it literally is unnecessary. It has done nothing. Answered nothing, solved nothing, went nowhere.
Yeah, so they're going on, you know, they've got questions where Snoke came from, and again, Bleeding Fool, Ichibaka is saying you're not supposed to care about Snoke's backstory. Palpatine didn't have backstory, except for the entire prequel trilogy was Palpatine's backstory.
Well, I think it's supposed to be he did, but yes, except that he did.
This is another 4-year-old criticism that the fandom menace was attacked for. Your Snoke theory sucks, remember? Ryan Johnson attacking the fans.
All Ryan Johnson does is think he's God's gift to filmmaking and attacks people.
So here we go again, talking about, you know, Hux is the only one that seems remotely like a military person.
Right, I agree.
What are they doing? What is the First Order? What are they? What do they want for you to buy First Order merchandise?
Exactly.
That's it.
They want their version of Stormtroopers, their version of Darth Vader. Go. You know, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. That's what it is.
Yeah, and they're talking about, like, you know, systems will come to bow the First Order. Sounds less like a goal, more like an end result. The end result of what? I'm not sure. Talking about Starkiller Base, and Ichibaka says, if the Republic is in charge, then what is the Resistance resisting?
That's what I'm wondering. Because that's what I can't understand.
You're basically talking about, you know, they're not fighting anything, because Republic is still in charge. The First Order is this fringe group. You think the Republic would be fighting the fringe group.
Exactly, like that's what he says. Wouldn't the First Order be the Resistance if the Republic was in control? Yes, exactly.
Who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
They would be, yeah. And the way I thought it was going to play out originally was that maybe the Republic just didn't know about the First Order because there weren't a whole lot of them, and they were trying. But I'm like, the way they set it up is that, you know, Leia's a general now, so that apparently they've been fighting these guys for a while.
Long time.
You'd think the Republic having most of, if not all, the resources of the old Galactic Empire. Would the Stormtroopers be working for the Republic?
Yeah, I don't. It doesn't make sense.
Wouldn't the Stormtroopers go back to being like the clone troopers in the prequel trilogy and be the good guys now?
Well, they can't be, because what the whole point of this is it's going to be the original trilogy all over again, but their way, so they can sell the same merchandise, hopefully to the same people, which is not working.
Right.
I mean, It is what it is. And it's at least the guy that wrote the original article on Uproxx. I applaud you for asking the right questions. Took you how many years?
Took you 4 years.
But, you know.
But then they're talking about all the supplemental material you have to read. You go through that and they still don't explain it. Like, Battlefront 2 was supposed to explain where the First Order came from. It didn't. The books didn't. Nobody seems to freaking know. They've got a whole cartoon series that doesn't even explain it.
Yeah, I was going to mention this, actually, before you got to here. I was saying about the comics and the books and that, how it explains it. It's all in those things. It's like most casual moviegoers, unless you're like me, who read all the books, which I won't now because I don't like these. But if you're not going to read all the comics, you're not going to read all the books. You didn't have to with the other ones.
Yeah.
You know, that was extra. It was side stories, extra stories, and which they got rid of almost all of it anyway.
Which The Last Jedi should have been. The Last Jedi should have been Apocrypha. Should have been a novel or something that would maybe, like I said, they do that time jump between 7 and 9 and just say, oh, by the way, here's what happened with Luke and and explain that. Because they never explain, like, even the prequels. Like, a lot of people watch the prequels. They did not watch the Clone Wars series, but you could still easily make the jump from episode 2 to episode 3 and be like, okay, well, the war started. Okay, now the war's been going on for 3 years,
right,
and now it's wrapping up. You know, you didn't need to go blow by blow, but they had a series if you wanted to get into it more. And that's why people were totally confused by Darth Maul showing up at the end of Solo. Because if you didn't watch Clone Wars and Rebels, you'd have no freaking idea he came back.
Yeah.
You know, and he shouldn't have come back because George Lucas cut him in half, so he didn't come back. But anyway.
Yeah.
You know, so they're assuming people are going to buy all this stuff, and they're not.
Mm-hmm.
And
they're trying to make you buy things you don't want to do. They're trying to make people read. How dare they?
Yeah, so this is just nonsense. It's just it is nonsense. Again, this is Uproxx. Based on what we know, I'm not convinced the First Order even wants to run the galaxy. I'm leaning heavily toward the fact they do not. It's almost like they just want to be respected, and the Resistance is making that more difficult. Kind of like today's SJW activists. Oh. So when the Rise of Skywalker hits in December, Kylo Ren will be in charge of the First Order. Who knows? Maybe he will have an actual goal. In The Last Jedi, he asked Rey to join him. He says together they can bring a new order to the galaxy, whatever the hell that means.
They didn't even say what it meant.
The good news is he's had a couple of years now to figure it all out. Read the whole thing. He may have had a couple of years, but the same writers are writing episode 9. Then he won't. Neither will anyone else. Yeah, I think what's going to happen is it's going to be yada yada. Palpatine shows up. We might get a sentence or two that explains what the hell the First Order is, whatever. Rey beats the big bad, and she becomes the mother of the new Jedi. Roll the credits.
Yeah.
You know, and
go
buy some stuff.
She's the savior for everyone.
Yeah.
Because, you know.
She's the new hope.
We undid everything.
Not Luke.
Yeah, we undid
She's
everything.
The new hope.
Yes.
And if they end up like that Rey is the new hope and not Luke, and she just like literally just walked into it and got handed everything, the Falcon, Luke's lightsaber.
Oh, it's like comics
in
the entertainment industry. And, you know, to go on, you know.
Yeah.
Gaming, you know, exactly.
Yeah. So, these are good questions. And you know what? This is why all the detractors have been asking, they've been asking these questions, and they've constantly been attacked.
Yeah, because if you ask questions that are reasonable questions like this, you're immediately told you don't like strong female leads and you're a misogynist. What does asking questions about how you don't know what motivation anybody has in this show, because you don't, how does that equal you don't like strong female leads and you're a misogynist? It somehow does. Because, you know, I don't like Rey, I think she's Mary Sue. Well, you're a misogynist, but I'm a woman. Well, you're still a misogynist. Or you're a racist, whatever. You know, insert your insult here. Anything that doesn't require them actually having to think or answer your question.
I have a theory, episode 9, even though I think with J.J. Abrams in charge, I think it will be a little bit better than The Last Jedi. I think they painted themselves into a corner. Mm-hmm. I don't think they can answer all of these questions in one movie. Mm-mm. And I think it's going to be a cluster. I think it's going to be Star Wars greatest hits. They're going to do some sappy montage of all the movies, shoehorn a bunch of stuff into the movie unnecessarily to try, because they've got all these new characters they're introducing.
Try to get them the feels instead, since they can't get them in the actual logical progression.
Don't think. Feel.
Feel the Force.
Feel the Force. Don't think about the Force, and you'll be okay. And by the way, on your way out, grab all the merchandise you can.
Right, and then as he goes over to work with Warner Media instead.
Yes, he jumps ship to go work for. Yeah, J.J. Abrams jumps ship to go work for Warner Brothers. You know, so there it is. There is no answer. We don't know what the First Order is. I doubt we're going to get a satisfactory answer. in the next movie, and I think Last Jedi is going to be not Last Jedi, next to the Last Jedi. No.
Rise of Skywalker?
Rise of Skywalker, thank you.
So you can't even remember because you don't care anymore.
I don't even give a shit. Rise of Skywalker, the last one. They just call it Star Wars, the last one. The last one is going to be as polarizing as the Last Jedi because I think it's going to piss everybody off. I think it's going to piss off.
It's going to reunite the fandom by pissing off everyone.
I think that's what's going to happen. I really do.
That's our goal.
I think it's going to be such. They're going to try to go back and reach back to the original fans, but they're going to do a half-assed job, and they're going to try to appease new fans, but they're not going to get Poe and Finn together, so everybody's going to be pissed off.
So the fandom will all unite against them because everybody will be mad.
And everybody's going to hate that giant space penis monster.
But I was going to say...
whatever the hell that is.
I was going to say, it's Star Wars 9, the search for more money.
Yeah.
That is what it is. It's Spaceballs, but a lot less amusing.
Yeah. I really don't have any excitement or hope for it. And it's so weird because even The Last Jedi, I was super excited for The Last Jedi because I thought we'd get some answers.
Yeah, I was too, actually.
We didn't get any answers. No answers. Nothing. We got nothing.
I walked out of that movie so pissed. I was so mad.
That was one of the only movies I've actually walked out of angry. Like, literally, like, oh my God, you did not just do that.
What you just did. Yes. Yeah, but they did.
Yeah.
So
I don't have any hope for the last one. I think it's going to be trash.
I don't either.
All right, so we're going to wrap this up.
Yep.
Okay, if you guys can tell us what the fuck the Resistance is, please do. Because I don't know, and Uproxx doesn't know. Nobody knows. Nobody knows.
The Resistance is the Republic, and the First Order is the Empire, because Disney wants their own versions to make lots of money.
That's pretty much it. Buy our merch. That's it. That's it. Okay, so we're going to wrap this up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants.
Bye.
Goodbye. Hey guys, thanks for watching Clownfish TV. Please consider supporting the channel. Go to clownfishsupport.com. That's clownfishsupport.com. And if you want to join our community, go to clownfishtalk.com. That's clownfishtalk.com. Please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. We will talk to you next time.